You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cricket Podcast, where we are going to be harvesting likes after Virat Kohli hits his 28th Test century. I'm Jack Hope. I'm joined by Ross Legg. How are you doing, Ross Legg?
I'm just in awe of Virat Kohli, actually. 28 centuries. Like, the guy is just a machine, isn't he? It's incredible.
And Virat Kohli fan club organizer, Dan Weston. How are you doing, Dan?
Yeah, I am all good. Yeah, I mean, what a return to form. Fantastic, isn't it?
That's a century. Is that a century in all three formats in 2023 for Virat? Not too bad. I mean, like, that genuinely isn't too bad. Ross, on today's show, we're going to be talking about the Border-Gavaskar trophy. It went out with a bit of a whimper, I think it's fair to say, with a bore draw. We'll be talking about the most exciting Test match cricket since the last New Zealand game, as they won off the very last ball of a Test. We'll be doing a little bit on England v Bangladesh. We'll be doing a little bit on the women's IPL. And Dan wants to talk to us about super subs in part 3. That's going to be it's going to be good, I think. It's a 3-part show.
Tactical innovation is always a good thing. And I think us getting into it, the meat and drink of that is going to be a nice one.
We're going to start with the Border-Gavaskar trophy, and Ross is going to start by summarising what happened.
Yes, so after humiliation and exhilaration in the first 3 tests, the Indian groundsman decided to deliver a political message to Modi and BCC cricketers alike, which went something along the lines of, why would we risk travelling to Pakistan in the Asia Cup? We'll bring the Rawalpindi ground to the Modi Dome, which will be more useful for driving the Popemobile on the field than playing cricket on it. A test match of fluffing and stat padding ensued, with the Aussies Usman Khawaja notching another century and Cam Green putting his first notch on the bedpost. Umesh Yadav recorded a century off of 25 overs on his graveyard stint, and then the Shub Goat arrived, showing that the conveyor belt of talent in India is alive and well, and then the King Kohli returned, his 28th test match century in 108 tests. The fact that friend of the show, Chiteswa Pujara, bowled says it all. A 2-1 win for India as they join the Aussies in the World Test Championship final later this summer.
Let's get the negative bit out of the way first of all, Dan. That was really boring, wasn't it?
Yeah. I'm not a massive fan of test matches played on roads. So the inconvenient time zone didn't really affect me too much because I wasn't that bothered. I mean, you've got to have something in it, surely, for the bowlers, and it was clearly such a road that Australia tried to get Matt Coonan in his debut Test 100 by letting him open.
So they did the old Jack Leach, didn't they? Jack Leach did that against Ireland, and then look what happened.
Yeah, just very well. What was that mediocre match? Made noticeable by obviously Kohli's return to form, which we highlighted last time. I think I was on the pod how bad his average was within the last sort of year and 3 months if you go from 2020 onwards. But also the breakthrough of Shubman Gill and Cameron Green as well in Test cricket, and another big ton for Usman Khawaja, who seems to be playing very well as well at the moment.
So that's the negative part out of the way, Ross. King Kohli, 28th century. We're out of his 28 centuries. You know, where do you rank this one? And I want specifics, and I want to know what was above it and what was below it.
And as you well know, Jack, I've got all of the Kohli centuries actually listed on my back. There's kind of a Wentworth Miller tattoo from Prison Break. I think it does this one. We talk about redemption arcs on this show quite a lot. And I think this is the one where Kohli hadn't hit a century for over 1,000 days, and that is ludicrous, right? For someone of his talent, of the stature in the game, to not hit a century for over 1,000 days is really quite significant. So to him hitting one in the Test match cricket is delightful. I think he's probably not going to have a better time to bat. He probably wish he could take that pitch everywhere he possibly goes to. Was it 168 you ended up on? Yeah, pretty. That's a daddy ton. That is daddy.
Other way around, but what you got the numbers right? Yeah,
186. Okay, that's a big daddy ton. Here's a good point. At what point does it become a daddy ton?
140. I reckon.
I was going 130.
Oh, okay.
What would you say?
I was saying daddy ton is over 150, but I think.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's like a good
where's
ton.
186? Like, if you're saying 130 is a daddy ton, what's 186? A granddaddy ton?
Yeah. That's a generational.
It's a sugar daddy ton.
He was good though, wasn't he?
Yeah,
Like,
he
in all
was good.
seriousness.
We can't take that away from him. We did, like, you can only play what's in front of you, right? And I thought that him and Shubman Gill batted really well together. I think it was kind of the future of it in India Test match cricket in Shubman Gill, and the very much the present and a glorious past batting together, which is probably quite a nice juxtaposition actually.
What do you make of Shubman Gill, Dan? He's really having a breakthrough few
Mm.
months, isn't he?
Yeah, I think I obviously rate him extremely highly. He's still only 23 years old as well. It's important not to forget that. He's averaging in 21 ODI matches. He's averaging 74 at strike rate of 110, which is obviously pretty special. I think it kicked on a little bit last sort of year or so in T20s as well. Though I still think there's probably another gear that he can find in that particular format. But if you're striking at 110 in ODIs, then you should be able to strike over sort of 130, 140 in T20s. So I mean, there's massive potential, and the only sad thing about Shubman Gill's breaking through and obviously now looking really assured at Test level is it's very difficult to see Ross's best friend KL Rahul get back into the side.
Well, with KS Bharrat's like 40 not out, it's very difficult to come back from that.
India do like a chop and change at the top of the order as well. It has to be said. I don't know if you saw the Jeff Lemon article about this, talking about Shubman Gill, and he went through it. It was a paragraph to go through all of the changes that India have made at the top of the order. I mean, like if we go through who's been there, we've had Rohit and Rahul. Now we've got Gill. We had Agarwal pretty recently. Pujara did it for a little stint, didn't he? Prithvi Shaw came in. Aren't there about 7 other dudes? And this isn't a big time frame. It's like England's conveyor belt of openers trying to partner up with Alistair Cook, condensed down to about 3 years since COVID. Go on, Dan.
That's no different to their selection policy in white ball cricket either. Not just the opening batting I'm talking about, just generally, like the amount of players that they've used and then discarded, having played like 1 or 2 or 3 appearances, is beyond belief. So whoever's selecting the team, in my opinion, hasn't really got a clear idea of the pecking order of who's better than who, or who's more suited to the step up to international cricket than who. So, yeah, it's just an extension of that policy or kind of policy or default policy, I suppose, in white ball cricket.
Yeah.
Roscoe. We've done Kohli, we've done Gill, we've done that it was a board draw. I think the big talking point from a global cricket point of view is what does this series tell us about the two teams? Australia, they go 2-0 down, and people are thinking 4-0's on. It's a real show of dominance by India. They end up salvaging a 2-1, and across the 4 matches they get beaten pretty soundly twice. In the other 2, though, they win 1, and it's a proper draw. This wasn't a holding on draw. This was 2 evenly matched sides with nothing to choose between them because it was a bit of a road, but because neither of them made any mistakes either. Do you think it's a moral victory for Australia? Maybe.
Potentially, I think being 2-0 down, and they were a laughing stock. I think we dedicated about 4 hours of this show just to laughing at Australia. Like they were embarrassed.
Memes going.
Yeah, we had literally viral memes coming out of our ears. And what was, I think, Dan, when you were on the show, we were talking about, did they really go into it with a clear enough plan? And you said, well, actually, knowing the management team there, actually they probably did have quite a good plan, but the players may have kind of abandoned that, and it might have been a little bit tricky for them to, really kind of make a difference to how it was going to actually be delivered. Obviously, Pat Cummins and the terrible news associated with his mother, there was something about it that really galvanised this team, and they managed to use that to kind of motivate and really pull out 2 major performances, I think, that actually they could all be proud of. Yes, we could talk about the pitch not being 100% in this one, but the pitch wasn't to blame. I don't think. It was just one of those things where it happens in Test cricket from time to time, right?
I mean, I don't think they set out, did they, to produce a road. It just sort of didn't deteriorate. 2-1 away in India, Dan, if you look at how hard it has been to travel to India for the last, decade, that's got to be the best result by an away side, pretty much, isn't it? I mean, I can't think of another one, certainly off the top of my head. Maybe Australia 2017 that they might say they were in one of those games for a little bit longer. But it is actually, I think, something that the Aussies can ultimately be proud of.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, when I remember Ross was sort of alluding to the fact that we were talking about this before on a previous pod when I was on before. We were all talking about 3-0s, 3-1s, 4-0s as a given after the second test, and I think that ultimately Australia deserve a great deal of credit for not losing the last two test matches, regardless of the conditions, because anyone who's followed England away in Test series knows that if you go 2-0 down in the first two and it's a long series, it's very difficult to come back from that. And that, I mean, I'm not a massive believer in momentum, but that negative momentum, if you like, after losing the first two, it's a lot. It's a long tour and you're away from home a lot, and it is tough to reverse that. And they have done that. Obviously, they couldn't quite make it 2-2, but I think ultimately immense credit has to go to them for the way they played in the last two matches, and maybe they'll be kicking themselves a little bit with how they approach that second test.
Well, just think what happens when England go to Australia and we go 2-0 down. Whereas literally players retire. we get laughed onto the plane. Like, it's ridiculous. So I think you're right, Dan.
So fair play to the Aussies. India, on the other hand, will they be disappointed, or will they say ultimately 2-1's not too bad here, Ross?
I think they'll be a little bit disappointed actually in terms of what happened. So the pitch for the third Test match was the third Test match was farcical, right? But they literally got absolutely done over. Australia had a good game plan. They picked three spinners. They took full advantage of it, and that's what happens, right? You roll the dice and something like that, and sometimes it does go that way. There have been some very good performances, I think, though, from some of the India players. I think they'll be very, very happy that Shubman Gill's recorded a century. Ravi Jadeja back at kind of a decent level of fitness. Akshar Patel proving that he's not just a kind of a one-trick pony, really. He's really come on with the bat, actually. He looked reasonably like one of their better players in the whole team. Shami again produced the goods with the ball from a pace perspective. I suppose as much as you can do on those pitches. And Sharma also hit some runs. So there's along with King Kohli, there's plenty to kind of write home about. And the only issue they've still got is wicketkeeper, but it's impossible to replace someone like Rishabh Pant, and KS Bharat did an okay job, I suppose, behind the stumps with the gloves, but didn't really bring it to life with the bat. And I know that in our Discord channel, which you can get access to via our Patreon, I kind of raised before, why does KL Rahul not actually take the gloves for India? And Dan, I wonder if you knew, is it because he doesn't seem like a bad gloveman, but the consensus was he doesn't have it in his locker.
Maybe it's the only ways they have to get back into the team now. I mean, I don't see KS Bharat as the long-term solution for India, even in a world where you don't have Rishabh Pant available. I don't see him as a long-term solution at all. I mean, I'd be absolutely stunned if he, in 2 years' time, is averaging 40 plus in Test cricket, even 35.
Well, I'd be pretty stunned if King Legend was averaging 40 plus in Test cricket as well. I don't think. I mean, from what I've seen, I don't think either of them are the solution. I don't think King Legend is near enough to the team with the bat right now. I think he's dropped quite a long way down the somewhat carousel-like pecking order that India have got. But I don't think he's ever wicket kept in first-class cricket, and I do think that it is a slightly different skill set to keeping in the shorter form. The ball tends to do quite a lot more. Chances are quite a lot more important. And I think it's not. I don't think you want to carry a specialist wicketkeeper who averages 20, but I think you can shave a few runs off the average of if the keeper is going to deliver the goods and claim 95% of chances, maybe generate a wicket a test over a bloke who is only a mediocre batter. And,
you don't have to look,
because that's what you're getting with King Legend, isn't it? It's not like you're getting an excellent batter in the team. You're getting probably a mediocre player who occasionally has little hot patches and occasionally looks terrible, and probably a bad gloveman.
Yeah, we don't have to look too far, right, for what you just said there, Jack, right? So actually, Australia had Tim Payne in their lineup for how long? And he literally never delivered with the cricket with a bat, really. Never hit a Test match century. Alex Carey's okay, but kind of a similar ilk, I suppose. Slightly better with the bat, but yeah, maybe you're right, and we're just in that we're comparing it to the Gilchrists or the Rishabh Pants of the world. We're actually being a gloveman as good as Ben Folkes is actually brilliant to have.
Well, yeah, I mean, you have to bat as well, but if you have a wicketkeeper, say as good as Ben Folkes, who averages 30 plus, that's probably fine if they're batting at 7. Like ideally you want someone who averages 45, yeah, but
England want that in general. England want that in general.
Final point on this then. We should pat ourselves on the back, Ross, predicting 2-2 and 3-1. Like, if you combine our predictions, we obviously win. I also said Khawaja for top run scorer.
Yeah, and I said Ashwin for leading wicket taker. Is that right?
There we go. So
I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's true.
We should now speculate about what will happen in 3 months' time in a completely different nation. It will be the World Test Championship between these two teams after Sri Lanka's heartbreaking defeat against New Zealand last night. Have we learned anything that might be relevant for that, Dan? And who are you going to bet your hypothetical millions on for that test?
Yeah. Look, I think obviously we've got completely different conditions in England to what we've experienced in India, be it roads or rank turners or whatever it was. More likely to be a road at the Oval rather than a rank turner, based on what's happened in county cricket, at least over the last couple of years there. Now, yeah, to be honest with you, I struggle to see past India still. I just think they've got a better lineup. I think Australia, you're really looking at Labuschagne, Smith, and one or two of the pacers if whoever plays to make a massive impact. Someone's got to make a match-winning impact, game with changing impact in that. Whereas I just think India have got enough solid performers to outperform Australia, unless Australia play really well and a couple of their guys have like lights out performances. But it's going to be interesting. It's going to be tight. I don't think it's going to be like ridiculously one-sided, but I think India have the edge.
Well, 55-45 in favour of India?
Something like that, yeah.
I'd probably go the opposite with Bumrah out. I think that's quite a big loss for India, and I think after that, I mean, I'm interested in who they'll pick as well. I would assume that they'll pick Ashwin again. No, but like so we know they're going to pick Siraj and Shami. Yeah. What is Umesh Yadav the next best, or Shardul Thakur? I mean, he's like some of the balls Bairstow hit off Shardul Thakur last year still haven't landed. Like he got absolutely taken apart. I mean, I don't.
There's ghosts, aren't there, Jack, as well, from when they lost to New Zealand in the other World Test Championship final. So they played both, didn't they?
So I'd be a little bit concerned about India from that point of view. I mean, in a way, having Bumrah out means that although they might have a worse seamer, they probably will pick Ashwin, which I think is the right decision. And that he's a nice number 8, even away in England. I think that's okay, and he's a pretty good bowler. I don't know if anyone here has noticed that. I don't know. I think I'd back Australia based if they get the pacers fit, if Cam Green is fit, if
Hazelwood
Head, do anything in England. I mean, there's a couple of big unknowns, aren't there, in that Australian lineup? We don't know how well Khawaja will do in England. It's a long time since he came here, and he wasn't that fantastic when he last.
Probably be all right though,
did.
Based upon what we've seen.
Well, if he is all right, then they've got Smith, Khawaja, and Labuschagne, haven't they? We've got, and if Head has historically, I think in the county championship and maybe his 1 or 2 tests in England, not done that well in English conditions. Well. Yeah, but he'd probably say I'm a different player now, and his performance in India, you might say, yeah, he has matured and maybe he's found a way to play in conditions that aren't perfectly suited to him. So I think there's a reason to be optimistic if you're Australia, and I do like Cummins, Hazelwood, Stark, and Lyon as a bowling attack with Green as the backup. I think that's pretty handy.
Yeah, I think
probably be a draw and rained off though, won't it?
I'll tell you what, we should definitely try and get tickets. That's exactly what we should do.
I'm in New York, unfortunately. So.
Oh well,
yeah. Right, we are going to take a break. Then we're going to come back. We're going to talk about it's going to be a jumble sale middle section: Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, England, New Zealand. all mixed together, and we're going to try and make
Women's Premier League.
we're going to try and make some sense of all that.